Kelsey as much as anyone else at this company.
What are you implying?
Which is
We're getting shut down here in the middle of this. I think it's going to be the worst camera angles we've ever had. The audio is just going to be dubbed in with clown horns like over each one of us. Like
it's going to be highly artistic, though,
That's-
because Kelsey has high standards.
It'll be
so-
well done.
So yeah, when he
We'll look
epically
terrible,
wrecks
but
the
it'll be well
show,
done.
It'll be done in a very tasteful way.
Never make a production crew mad.
No,
It's a bad idea. It's not going to work out well for you. Anyway, ours is the best that's ever been. Hello, everyone. This is Trends with Benefits. This is our weekly Roundtable Tech podcast here at Digital Trends, and thank you for joining us. We do appreciate it. Of course, every week we talk about something different, but this week, combined with last week, we're talking about space stuff. So here's what we're doing right now. We're going to talk about colonizing space. So you think about all of those different organizations out there that are promoting space tourism now, like SpaceX. Where is that at? Where is it going to end up going? I mean, are we all going to live in Elon Musk's city on Mars? Probably, but that's what's happening. So we're going to discuss that and a whole lot more. But let's get it started here right now. Introduce our roundtable cast of characters. I'm Greg Nibbler, and not to my right is Adrian Warner. Instead, who do we have?
Hi, Jess Serba. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I think we may have come up with a nickname for you off the air.
yeah,
Did we?
Yeah.
Is this official?
Turbo. Official?
Let's
Turbo.
throw it out there for people to think about. Turbo is the official one that we are thinking about here.
I can't
We'll let
wait
the people
for people
decide.
to start sending messages and tweets to Turbo.
Yeah, me too.
Turbo and hot nozzle. That's like a '70s cop duo.
Yeah,
thing, I
it
think. Yeah.
that message you got from a viewer
Yes.
who it was like, please share this very important information with hot nozzle.
Which, by the way, to follow up on that, we talked about whether or not birds ate cheese a couple of weeks ago, and picture evidence of birds eating cheese.
No, I think the question is whether or not they like cheese.
Or whether they like it.
so we
very
still have to
important.
get to the bottom of that.
I mean,
But,
there's two of
Find
them
that
eating
bird.
it.
there was
They
two
didn't
of them
look
eating
like
it,
they
which is
hated it.
pretty good evidence that they like it.
Well, okay, the research still has to be done, but
Yeah.
we'll get to the bottom of it. And continuing on down.
I am Caleb Dennison, a.k.a. The Whiskey Mist, a.k.a. Chicken Bone, a.k.a. Mr. Spock.
Ooh, all right.
Mr. Spock.
I haven't heard that
Yes.
one yet.
What is going on there?
Apply some logic to this discussion today.
Oh, my
All
God.
right.
Yeah,
We'll
space
wait for
logic.
that to hit.
That actually just happened.
Not to be confused with Dr. Spock, the baby guru guy. This is what I'm talking about, Leonard Nimoy, rest in peace, and his character on Star Trek.
Thank you for making that distinction.
That was a very logical definition you just gave right there.
Well, have you read the writings of Mr. Dr. Spock?
I don't know. I'm so confused at this point. Continuing on.
Oh, yeah. On the end here, I am Drew Prindle, a.k.a. Professor Prindle.
Yes, indeed. And Drew always has our history segment for whatever topic we're going to be bringing up. And since we are talking about colonizing space, what do we have for history on that?
So I think the logical place to start, Dr. Spock over there.
Thank you.
I think the logical place to start for colonizing space is like space tourism, right? Because in order to move from what we're doing now, which is sending career astronauts to space, to sending people, just regular people, colonists or whatever, to space, is going to be sending tourists, right? I mean, people that are not career astronauts, that are just kind of like along for the ride. We need to figure that out before we can start putting people on shuttles and sending them to Mars or whatever. And the cool thing is we've been doing that a little bit. We've been dabbling in space tourism and sending people that aren't astronauts to space. We haven't done it a ton, but we've done it some. It all started around 1998, the late 90s, when all the fun stuff was happening with
Yep.
the internet and space
Those were my
exploration.
glory years.
Oh, yeah.
There.
Space was
Yeah.
hot.
So it actually starts with
I went
this
to
company, Space Adventures. Do you remember Space Adventures?
No.
So it's this company. I didn't know about them, but I spent so much time digging into their history because it's a very interesting thing. I'm sad they don't really exist in any formal way anymore. But it was a company that facilitated private sector tours of space. So if you had enough money and you could pay, they would figure out how to arrange to get you on a spacecraft with either NASA or the Russian space program and get you up there.
Who actually went up?
So there were 7 people that have done it or did it in the past, and it started in 2001. The first guy was this guy Dennis Tito. He was involved in space and engineering and all of that stuff, and he actually had some stuff that he wanted to do up there and experiments that he wanted to run for his company.
So he was actually tangentially, at least somewhat.
He was
Right.
loosely
Yeah, so that was
affiliated.
loosely affiliated with the space
Space
program.
adjacent.
Yes, but he wasn't a career astronaut, and he wasn't employed by a government agency, which is, I think, an important distinction to make. It was just like a dude from the private sector
Very
who
civilian.
wanted to go. Yeah, I mean, very civilian, but like also had some training. Like,
He's got some chops.
yeah, he's got some space chops.
And I bet a ton of
That'd be
money.
Space chops.
Oh yeah, he had to pay about $20 million to do this.
Wow.
But he went up on April 28th, 2001. He stayed aboard the International Space Station for 1 week, 22 hours, and 4 minutes. And then came back down. And while he was up there, he did some experiments and, came back down with some data and all that. So it's kind of like a gray area whether or not you call him a tourist, because he was like actively participating in like some mission. But still,
But he would he have been up there if he hadn't paid $20 million?
oh, hell no.
Yeah, then he's
Right.
a tourist.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking up some of these pictures of him too, where he's sitting there with like the actual astronauts or cosmonauts and like giving the thumbs up when he got back down. I'm like, there's something weird about that because he paid for it.
looks
Like
like
he didn't really accomplish
Do you
it.
think
Like,
the actual astronauts who had trained forever and were highly qualified individuals, served their careers in the military, this was their dream to get there? They worked really hard, and then
earned their right
this
to it.
Yahoo comes through with $22 million and buys his way onto their
Yeah.
precious space station. Do you think while he was up there, they were all like behind his back, "What the fuck is this jackass
Which
doing?"
also means he took the spot of somebody else that could have come up that actually
Right.
earned that right.
Also, don't
There's only
you
so much
need
space.
training? Like they say, you need
Yeah.
to like your body needs to like get ready. And
Yeah,
all,
he did
but,
a
like,
bunch
he
of
just
stuff. He did
went
the
up there?
low gravity training before he went up there, and had to
briefly.
There was he basically went to like government space camp, like a little bit.
Government space camp.
Like he
Space
because
101.
But that's the thing. That's what's different between what they did in these first few space adventures missions where they sent 7 people up and they had to, a lot of training, versus what they're doing now. Like the stuff that Blue Origin and SpaceX are really shooting for is like minimal training, like the kind of stuff where you just like sign up, pay your $250,000, hop on a shuttle like you're getting on an airplane. It's like, all right, just in case of a crash, your flotation device is under your seat, and
Oh, and also you might pass out from the massive amounts
Yeah.
of G's that are about to be exerted as we.
thank you for flying with Blue Origin. We hope
Congrats.
Yeah.
You're
They
an
get there a
astronaut.
lot.
But yeah, it's going to be much simpler in the future. There's not going to be nearly as much training involved because the stuff that these modern companies are building
Right.
is just much more
Right.
like streamlined, I guess.
Well, with these first 7, you said there was 7 people that
7 through space adventures. There's been a few others that have kind of gone up aboard government missions and stuff around
Real
that.
quick, who were the other types of people like that went up there? Were they all scientists or were they just
Most of them had some sort of scientific background or a reason to go up into space. There were a couple of them that were just like rich and I think wanted to just go there just to hang out. But almost all of them had some sort of like functional purpose.
Right.
Once they went up there.
Also, $22 million down to 1/4 of a million?
I mean, that's like I think $250,000 is.
Yeah,
the
we'll get
down
into
payment.
that. There's a couple of things with that as
I'm
far as
getting
the
ahead
price
of
and
ourselves.
what you
as
do.
usual. Sorry.
No, it's not too far ahead. But
But yeah, so like that happens in the span of time between like 2001, 2009, as some of the earlier, private sector space tourism. That was the kind of the first big like boom, which is interesting because that was like early internet money floating around the same time, and now we're kind of like this second generation late internet money.
Yeah.
And the same things
We're
happening.
old internet money.
Yeah, but
It's been passed down one generation.
But yeah, there was kind of a lull in the middle there, and that was after the Spaceship Two crash thing that happened. There was that test flight that happened in 2014,
Yeah.
which killed one of the pilots, and then the other guy got pretty injured because he had to fall from a spacecraft and like land, and the parachute landing was apparently not very soft. But after that, there was kind of like a dark shadow, and they're like, let's not do any more of this private space flight for a while. But now, 2020, we're seeing quite a bit of interest in it again. And it's mostly because of these private sector space companies that are making such big headway into just getting not just government agencies into space, but anybody who has enough money to pay.
yeah, and that's where we're at now. I mean, you bring up Virgin Galactic because they actually, just depending on when you're listening to this podcast, it was about last week for us, when they reopened up signups to actually go up in their system. But this is where the differences are. So it's $250,000. You can put down $1,000 deposit right now to reserve your spot. But
I
there's
might do that just cause.
just cause.
I'm never going to
Just
come
to
through
say
with
you
the other
did.
249, but
it's worth it for the bragging
I
rights.
reserved my space in space.
Well, but But the way Virgin Galactic is doing it, though, it's not like you're going to the space station and hanging out. So
No.
they have it set up. It's this their plane that essentially takes a rocket that you're going to ride in way up into the atmosphere, and then it launches off of there. So they don't have to do the whole launch. It's a little bit cheaper to do that. But the only real space experience is you get up right to the edge of what is considered space, which I think is 62 miles. And you're going to experience zero gravity for like 3 to 4 minutes, and then that's it. It's a 90-minute trip for $250,000.
Doesn't feel like enough.
No.
No, that's just enough
3
to
to
make
4
you want to
minutes.
go again.
And
Yeah.
there's 5 other people that are going
how
to be
they
with
get
you.
you
It's not like
hooked.
you have a whole plane to yourself. You're crammed in with
It's
5
space
other
crack.
people.
It's just space
Yeah.
crack. They
Yeah,
just
give you
want
a
to get
taste.
you
Give you a
hooked,
taste.
and then they're going to milk you dry.
Let's go up again.
Next thing you know, you're gonna be in a an AA meeting on the moon.
Yeah.
Astronomics Anonymous.
So this is an intervention.
I mean,
that-
so you're basically going up high enough to be able to see the difference between Earth's atmosphere and its curvature and like space,
Yeah.
right? But it's suborbital, right? So you're not as
Yeah.
far as
No.
like, the orbiting satellites
You're
are.
technically in that gray zone that's considered space.
I really want to dig into like how they figured out these designations. It's like you're at 62 miles. That's the boundary. That's where
Well,
I think
our
it's the
territory ends.
weightlessness factor.
Also-
is from
Yeah.
Is
I'm
there
not
an
entirely
actual
sure.
scientific calculation behind it? Because
Well,
I think it. Well, I think
It's
the
higher
definition
than
itself too is a
it's
little
higher
bit
than
iffy.
where anybody's gone with a balloon, right?
Okay, yeah. So the
So-
atmosphere is kind of where it ends there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Because if you could do it in a balloon now, like I feel like that would be the bigger space tourism. It's like, we'll just go up in a balloon. And that Red Bull guy did that, right?
Yeah.
yeah, he did. What did he do? He did skydiving from like
Yeah.
the highest altitude
Yeah.
ever. Yeah. So that's Virgin Galactic's. Like that's what they're doing. And then you have SpaceX, which goes a little bit further. And what they're planning to do, I mean, first they're going to be sending actual astronauts to the International Space Station, but then they're going to be sending people up for tourist missions, whether it's going to be ISS, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But just one of the things that they announced too, and they're partnering with Space Adventures, is that they're going to be sending people up to actually orbit the Earth for like 3 to 5 days.
That-
You're gonna get
That's
days.
what I need.
That's where it's at, right? there.
Exactly. But I think that's going to be like $50 million or something. I don't even know if they actually said what the price is, but it's millions and millions. But at least you get 3 to 5 days up there. I mean, wouldn't that be more bang for your buck? Than
Oh,
Oh yeah,
heck yeah.
100%.
yeah.
Well, right now, I'd rather go do the balloon thing and then jump out because that sounds like way more of a thrill
Oh,
than
God,
just,
I don't think I'd want to
than
do
just
that.
take a
No.
ride and kind of look around for 3 minutes and then come back down.
I
That,
love it. This really
Yeah.
just all makes it sound like we're turning space into like a theme park.
It really does.
Really
That's
are,
exactly
yeah.
what's
What's the
going
best
on.
ride?
Yeah. That's one of those big things that they're actually looking at. You know, it's essentially making it a tourist destination, making it something that people will pay for. I mean, that is how you bring down the price, is you get a bunch of people spending all this money on it, and you can turn that into a whole thing. But it's just going to be rich people for a long, long time. So anybody listening thinking, I mean, if you have $250,000, great. You know, if you have an extra 250, I'll go up with you. You know, I'm fine with that.
dude, that's just a tease. No way. I need the full on like 3 to 5 day
Same.
Yeah.
orbiting the Earth thing. I mean, I grew up watching that old movie, The Right Stuff, where it chronicles like moving into space and the first capsules that actually, orbited the Earth. And that's what kind of stoked my imagination around one day visiting space. So I feel like I need to have that kind of experience in order for it to be worth it. Like,
Yeah.
never mind the fact that I don't have the money, but like,
Right.
if I did, honestly, no, I would not spend the $250,000 for a 3 to 5 minute hangout.
No, it's not long enough.
at that
Yeah,
altitude,
Not for
no.
that. Unless somebody wanted to buy me it, then I'm 100% going to
Well,
go.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, if I was, coming along as a buddy, I'll help you out. I'll do you a favor. Sure.
You don't want to go up alone? Let me know. But I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at as far as the space tourism side, because that's just 2 of the companies too. You know,
Yeah.
and then Blue Origin with whatever. Blue Origin's kind of weird because they don't really say they announce all these plans, but it feels like something nefarious is afoot. Just I don't know why. I mean, there's nothing that should be that way. I think it's just because it's Jeff Bezos and he wants to build a moon base. And
Yeah,
have all that
that's
stuff. Like,
that's why it feels nefarious.
Yeah.
It's just like this might be some part of his evil plan that
Yeah.
we're not privy to.
There's
Like,
going to be a big Amazon logo on the moon.
he's going to burn it in there so we all
Yeah.
have to look at it all the time.
Everybody. Yeah.
What kind of space snacks do you get on that kind of a flight, right? I mean, there's no way they're just giving you one of those stupid Biscoff cookies which I love, by the way, but that's not
not going to hold up.
that's just enough food to make me realize that I am really, really hungry and then
Yeah.
leave me needing something.
Well,
you
that's a
know.
good
Plan
point.
all
Like,
along.
what's the experience like?
Yeah.
of going up there. We actually, so
I'm sure it's a very comfortable chair, and you have ample leg room. Right?
yeah, but you're also with
for that kind of price.
So, and I know we have a ton of stuff to get to, so in the next 15 minutes, but real quick, like the other thing that I thought about is going up in one of these things is you're in there with, like, say it's 3 to 5 days, you're there with other people for 3 to 5 days. You better like them. Like, you're crammed in with them. That's a long
It could
time.
end up being a
I mean, think
whole
about
line.
the longest road trip of all time where you're just, there's no breaks.
This just reminds me of every time Caleb gets on an airplane and
Yeah.
just like hates everybody around him. Like, that would probably
For
happen
real.
on a space.
You get a
right?
stinky guy. Somebody takes their shoes off right when you get on
yeah.
in there.
No, I'm sure that would
Trying to relax.
a tweet storm would ensue for sure. No, I mean, you know what they ought to
next to me
do
is the word.
is film a reality TV show of these characters up there for 3 to 5 days in close quarters. Like, you can't really go anywhere. You're just sightseeing for a long time,
Well, they
and
were-
hopefully
With
eating some
strangers.
decent food.
Yeah.
You know what's amazing about that is that was the plan for a while. That Japanese billionaire guy that was going to go to space, and he put out that like call for like, hey,
that's
Going
right,
around
yeah.
the moon.
he wanted like a space girlfriend to go with him. They were going to film
Space chick.
a like bachelor style like romance TV show in space.
He
like,
was
that
probably going to propose to her before they came down.
Oh man,
And like the lead up to that would have been pretty amazing.
How terrifying for that woman.
Oh yeah. You say
There's
no.
you're there. You're there.
He took you to space and you said
Say
no.
no?
Yeah. I mean, then it's just awkward. Like the whole show is just them looking,
looking at-
like backs to each other, bumping into
I mean,
each other.
like you can only drink each other's recycled pee for so many days
Yeah.
before you're just like, ah, come on, man.
Will they
wow.
allow alcohol on that? I bet they won't.
Space
They should
drinks.
do.
Space
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
space cocktails.
I'd sneak some in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
You'd
what?
you'd have
No,
to
this
have
is
some
my water
cocktail.
bottle. No, I'm just bringing my water bottle.
What's the
Don't open it.
what's the lavatory situation like on this thing too? These
Well,
are the details.
these are
I
all
want.
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are the details I want. Yeah, sure. You're going to send some people up there. What's it going to be like? What's it look like? What's the chair like?
Yeah.
What are the snacks? Do they have stroop waffles?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better have a stroopwafel. All right, debate. What's
Okay.
better, stroopwafel or Biscoff?
Stroop waffle.
waffle.
Every
Yeah,
day.
stroop
Yeah.
waffles.
Really?
Pretty good.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah, they're pretty damn tasty.
We know.
All right, moving on.
Yeah. Okay. So, settled that. All right. So going from there, talking about what else they're going to do though. So these are like the initial ones, but that vacation in space is a real thing. The ISS, the International Space Station, is going to start renting out rooms to people and to like businesses, so that they can go up there, do whatever they want. And that's kind of already started a little bit, but the plan is to build onto it and have something like that up there.
Yeah,
So you
and
can
this-
actually rent a room at the space station.
Yeah, and that's totally like it's one of these early steps for colonizing space, right? Is
Yeah.
just like getting more people more access up there and having that hub, the station in space that you can stop. Yeah, that's a pretty significant step.
Yeah, I mean, and looking, you know, there's a lot that we can talk about with this, but I mean, looking even further out, there are actually companies already planning to build their own space stations, like space hotels. There's this one called the Von Braun Space Hotel, which
Of course it is.
the Von Braun Space Hotel.
After von Braun, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
The guy who made the
yeah.
Atlas V rocket.
Yep. So, yep, 100%. Yeah.
All right.
So it's got a noble background. Just it sounds funny when you say the Von Braun Space Hotels, which is good. So that's the idea that they're going to build one that's up there, a giant space hotel that has that rotates, so you would have gravity.
It looks like there's way too much gravity in those renderings.
Yeah.
It does. It does. It doesn't look big
unless
enough
it's
for that.
spinning though, it might be.
It might be-
doing this centrifugal
Yeah, be one of the
force.
spinning ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're
So-
good.
and the idea would be that it would house up to 450 people, and you'd have like luxury dining
450
views.
people.
That's a lot of
450
people.
people
How
up
are they
there.
going to fund this? It took like multiple decades and billions of dollars for us to get the
Yeah.
ISS up there.
Well, what
You're gonna
there's
build oh man,
that's the thing. They're also their claim, and this is the Gateway Foundation. They claim that they're going to start building it by 2025, and that by 2027 this will be up there. That's not going to happen.
No.
I will
I
bet
mean, I'm
money
hopeful.
against.
You gotta say
I love
something
That'd be
it.
cool.
I would love it.
You gotta have high hopes to get that investor.
But in
money.
7 years, you're going to have a 450 person space
No
hotel.
way is it going to be that capacity. They got to build it
I
modular.
want to go as soon as it happens.
Do it modular and build on, over time. They're going to have to do it just like any other hotel where you have luxury suites and then you've got the,
Poor people
Steerage.
hotels.
the steerage room. It's like a cruise ship,
It's a-
but in space, which raises a question:
Where
How
they do
long?
the Irish dancing, everything happens down there.
Presuming that you would
Sorry,
actually
Titanic
want to do
reference,
this.
It didn't work out.
I'm sorry.
as well.
That's because I'm talking over you, Greg.
letting
I
people
have an
know.
actual interesting question to ask. Is why. Oh, I'm just
The logic, huh?
no. I'm just kidding. I did want to throw this out there though. Like, presuming you would actually want to go, how long do you think you could hang out up there before you'd be like, yeah, I'm ready to go home now?
Yeah, pale blue dot, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Been there, done that. I don't care anymore.
Well, you can get homesick from. You can be an amazing vacation destination here on Earth, right?
Yeah.
And after you've done it for a while, it's like, you know what? This is amazing. I love it, but I need to go home.
Well, let's ask you this. You actually worked on cruise ships.
Yeah.
And that's a long time to be working in those quarters. How long? Because you got to think, there's 450 people. You need a staff of at least that many, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So how long would you want to work on something like that?
Well, the thing about being on cruise ships was that thankfully we would hit ports, right?
Yeah.
And you would be able to go out and do things. In the sun, a change of atmosphere, change of air. Literally, like the air on the ship is recycled, and
Yeah.
it's like being on a plane for a long time. When you finally step out into the real air, it's like, yeah, that's what it's supposed to be like. Anyway, I have, however, done some crossings where you go for a week or so without getting off the ship. And yeah, after about a week, I'm like, get me off of this thing right now. Like, I need to go to a different place and have a different kind of food or whatever. About a week was, but that's also being accommodated to the ship. Like, we were used to doing 2 to 3 days at sea without any ports. I think 2 weeks is absolutely as much as a person could take. Like, if you were to go through the Panama Canal, do not hit any stops, go out to Hawaii and just look at it, but don't actually get off in Hawaii, and then continue off to Alaska, that kind of a trip would absolutely drive me insane. Like, I would have to get out. I would have to get out of there.
So you wouldn't be able to work on that Von Braun Space Hotel?
Um,
I mean,
well,
actually, I mean,
I'll
just
say
saying
this.
that's 2 weeks, and that's with, like, even going up to the deck. Like, there's nothing. You're just on this one big round.
Hopefully, they have a whole bunch of like indoor recreation stuff that's
Yeah.
fun to help divert your attention away. I mean, on the ships, they've got a casino and they've got movies, and you can go, water slides and tons of different things,
Space
shows and all that kind of stuff that you can go see. So they try to keep you really engaged while you're at sea, but. A lot of that is outside, fresh air, sunshine, vitamin D, all that good stuff that you're
Can't
not
do that
getting
in
there.
space.
No.
You can't do that.
You
in
get- you
space.
can get some radiation.
I will. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's available. I will say though that the staff at the Von Braun, they're all having sex with each other.
They're all going to be robots. Let's be real.
Well,
here.
Oh, that could
that's
be
a good
too.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, robot sex isn't nearly as fascinating.
Or
but-
is it?
no, that's what happens. Listen, when you
I'd
put
watch.
That's a
when
sound
you put
clip I'd
people
like
in
to
close
have removed
quarters and you don't give them anywhere else to go, they just start having sex with each other. That's what happens. Just letting you know. It's a human thing.
SpaceX.
Sex.
All right. Well, going from the space hotel to some other ideas, going back to Blue Origin, because one of the big things they want to do is go to the moon, and Jeff Bezos wants to help colonize the moon. That goes along with NASA's plan for Project Artemis, which is the same kind of thing, where that's an actual plan where they do want to like set up a base on the moon, and it's starting to happen more and more where this could be a possibility before too long.
Yeah, I think that's yet another step in the grander plan to go out to like other planets. They often talk about the moon as like the gas station in space, right? Like we can go up there, and that's where you link up with like the actual spacecraft that's going to take you further. That's just kind of like a pit stop in
rest stop.
between. Yeah,
Yeah.
Just moon rest stop.
They got really bad coffee and free hot chocolate.
That's actually in line with like most sci-fi.
The bathrooms are
Really bad
not
coffee.
really
Fairly
that
clean.
clean.
Somehow there's a Popeyes there though.
Yeah.
Like there.
And a Starbucks.
There's people hanging out in the parking lot for days on end.
Yeah.
Don't really know what they're doing.
questionable people. Yeah. Like, how did he even get up here? Like,
These lunars, man.
how long is
Lunar.
stupid? Yeah. Oh, that's funny. So that's one of the other stepping stones is there, and like you said, like kind of like a truck stop in space.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, that's once again, that's like multiple decades out before we actually build like a moon base that we're actively like going to. We still haven't even really sent a lot of successful missions to the moon since we did.
Yeah.
That first time.
Yeah.
It hasn't really been a high priority, but the exciting thing is, space budgets are going up. NASA has one of the biggest budgets it's had in a very long time. So all of this renewed interest in space colonization and stuff might move the needle. It might make all of this stuff actually happen within the next 10 to 20 years.
Well, I mean, if, like Blue Origin or somebody goes up there and actually finds something of value, that's going to speed it up real quick. If there's a way to mine it.
Cheese.
Yeah, cheese. It's full of cheese, man. But I think that's going to be one of the big things too is the monetary side of it. But going from the moon, then I know because we're low on time, but the next big step is Mars.
Yes,
and that's where Elon Musk has said that he plans on dying on Mars. So
I mean, if you're gonna kick it the bucket, you might as well do it on.
Might as well do it on Mars.
Why
yeah.
not?
But
Especially if you're Elon Musk.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of those. There's been multiple plans to send people to Mars, and there's still NASA plans and SpaceX. And I mean, it sounds great, but it's one of those things that I just don't see it happening on the timeline that they're saying. I don't know, Drew. What do you think?
I don't know. To me, it doesn't make a ton of sense.
What are we gonna get out of that?
Humans there?
To Mars?
We're getting real good at building robots and landing rovers on Mars, and we've been doing that for a while.
Yeah.
And but I don't know. I guess in order to do the kind of colonization stuff, where you're doing agriculture, you're being Mark Watney trying to grow potatoes on Mars.
Right.
That's kind of sort of difficult to do with a robot. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to make a ton of sense, but there are people that want to do it. So
Yeah.
Have any of you guys watched? And I can't remember the title of the show. It's on Netflix. It just the second season came out a few months ago.
Oh, you're talking about?
Is it Mission to Mars, or maybe it's just Mars? I don't.
Oh, yeah. Are you talking about the Mars show?
It's a really interesting hybrid of
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like a sci-fi drama.
It's just called Mars, actually.
Okay, there, yeah. So it's this hybrid of sci-fi drama with interstitials from Neil deGrasse Tyson and Elon Musk,
Yeah.
and where they're actually talking about the practical way that they want to get to Mars, what's going to require, and then they have the sci-fi drama show that's them actually going through that and doing it to kind of make it more of a fantasy, kind of bring it home. It's really interesting. I don't know. I would hope that with that many scientific minds involved, and interviews with people at NASA and everything else, I would hope that they kept it true to scientific roots. But it is a fun thing to kind of imagine, this whole idea of colonizing Mars and what it would require, and also this sort of the time frames involved in getting people there, the long lag times, possibly running out of supplies, unexpected storms, destroying stuff. It's just it might be worth a watch. I've enjoyed it. It takes a second to kind of get into it, but I don't know if you're into that kind of thing. Our viewers, our listeners, go check it out.
Yeah.
It's called Mars. It's on Netflix, and it's entertaining.
It is a fun way to look at it, actually. Yeah, and it does seem like they kind of stick to the scientific side of it. I mean, but it makes you think about what, like you said, what is actually going to be involved with living on Mars and how hard that would be. But at the same time, looking at it from this plan of setting up a city on Mars, or even one of those first trips, you would be one of the first, well, not one of, you'd be the first, say the first group of people to go to Mars. If there's any exploration in you, that's pretty cool, even if you might not come back. So that's my question. Would you go on the first trip if the plan is to come back, but that's not necessarily going to happen?
No, I mean, if I go, I know that I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
That's just not going to happen. Might die trying to make a way for other people to come, after me. So yeah, if I'm feeling that valiant, I'm not planning on coming back. Would I actually do it? Honestly, if I had something to bring to the table, I totally would. I would do that, but I don't. I'm a musician and I review TVs. That's not going to help anybody out on Mars. It's just not. So I'll leave it to somebody else, and I'll stick with the tourism if it ever comes around before I die.
Jess, would you go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go.
Yeah.
Why you have to, right?
Yeah.
To take that opportunity.
Yeah.
And
And the chance that you can do it and come back.
right, exactly. I would bank on that chance.
Yeah.
I'm an optimist.
I think I would too.
Yeah.
I would do it. I would go, even though I know there's no way you'd be coming
Yeah, but
back.
what if you do come back?
The worst would be to get all the way there and then just crash, when you're
Yeah.
coming down, which would be a big possibility. And it'd be like, oh, awesome. Oh, damn.
Bye.
Drew.
No, man. I'm all for trying new things and everything, but I don't want to be the first class to go to Mars. I'm gonna wait until that stuff's figured out and they got it. They've got all the
Got it all
kinks
dialed in.
ironed out. I don't want to be an early adopter of whatever. It just sounds miserable, man. And plus they don't have most of the good creature comforts of Earth.
That's
true.
my biggest
Yeah,
problem.
like Earth's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Well, it'd also be like 6 months in a spaceship with Elon Musk too, and as much as I want
no.
Elon Musk to join us on this
As
show,
long as he brings some of Joe Rogan's weed, I'm there.
Right. See, it's really fun up
Space
there.
weed.
all right.
Speaking of Martian horticulture,
yeah.
I mean,
Who's going to be the first person to grow weed on
On
Mars?
Mars.
Yeah.
who's going to be the first person to smoke it, and who's going to be the first person on Earth that gets to smoke
Martian weed.
Oh, see, these are the
Oh,
real
man.
questions. That's how it's going to happen faster.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yep. And yeah, I'm not even going to
no,
go
you
where else I was going to go. All right. That's for this week. I know we're out of time, but I want to say thank you to everybody too who joins the show. Again, last week we talked about space as well. We talked about space debris and different things that go along with that, which is a huge issue, space junk. But each week is a different episode, and I want to make sure that everybody hits subscribe. So wherever you're watching or listening, hit the subscribe button. That we get notifications when we have a new episode up, and you can listen to the back episodes and all of that stuff. You know what to do with podcasts. I don't have to tell you this, really, when it comes down to it. You know what to do. Just hit subscribe. We've all figured it out at this point. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another episode. Space weed. That is
Space
That's
weed.
awesome.
Curiosity Kush.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be space weed, and then it's going to be space porn. That's going to be the next thing that happens after that.
I was thinking about when you made your comment about being a musician. I was like, no, dude, if you get two musicians in Mars, dude, it's a space jam.